It's easy to dismiss famous groupies as cliches. Pop culture often paints them as airheaded or crazy, with little attention to their real experiences. Decades after the wild lifestyle of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, notable rock groupies like Chris O'Dell and Pamela Des Barres are sharing their true stories. They reveal how they served as mistresses and muses to some of the most beloved bands of all time. While they can't compete with rock's biggest groupie legends, they shed new light on the entire lifestyle. O'Dell and Des Barres' stories go beyond the simple question of, why do groupies do what they do? By telling these stories in their own words, they reclaim the narratives about them. Though the wildest groupie stories may have a hint of truth, first-hand accounts show how these women are more than stereotypes. Let's look at what groupies reveal about what the lifestyle is really like. Let's begin. Number 14, cycle of drug abuse.
Linda Ronstadt, Santana, Earth, Wind and Fire, Fleetwood Mac, and more.
Chris O'Dell's quest for the perfect high led her into a relentless cycle of addiction. She recalls little of the years from 1979 to 1983, dubbing them her lost years in her memoir. Describing her lowest point to ABC News, she said, "I was supposed to see my hypnotherapist, but I couldn't even make it to my car. I couldn't get down the stairs of my apartment. I had taken so many Quaaludes that I couldn't manage." Despite realizing she needed to quit, O'Dell faced resistance from her industry friends. "I tried to stop, but the people around me would say, 'Oh, come on, you're so boring,' or 'just a little won't hurt.' There was a lot of pressure." Her journey underscores the challenges many faced in the music scene, where substance use was prevalent and breaking free often meant battling not just addiction, but also societal expectations and peer pressure. Number 13, challenges of misogyny.
This is sick.
Sure.
It's everything I envisioned and more. I want to talk about
The term groupie carries heavy connotations, often implying that women around bands were there solely for S**exual attention and fame proximity, rather than genuine love for music. Despite participating in similar activities as their male counterparts, women like Chris O'Dell and Pamela Des Barres were often marginalized as mere hangers-on. O'Dell attributes much of this to underlying misogyny. There was definitely a misogynistic attitude. Look at their women, so afraid of others because they feared losing their man. The feminist movement hadn't taken hold then. I don't think women today would tolerate it. Many women from that era reject the groupie label due to its negative baggage. Bebe Buell expressed frustration in an interview. "I get really angry when people dismiss these girls as whores or groupies. They were more than that. Sweet girls who greeted you with flowers at the airport and invited you to wonderful things. They were just really nice, not mean. I've been upset about some things they did as kids, but I was a kid too, so I can't judge." Their stories highlight the complexities and inequalities women faced in the music industry, challenging stereotypes and reclaiming their roles beyond mere labels. Number 12, groupies turn successful musicians.
Wanna lose you, but I don't wanna use you just to have somebody.
While not every groupie aspired to be a musician, many made significant strides in the music industry. Pamela Des Barres and 6 other women from the LA rock scene formed the GTOs. Additionally, Bebe Buell, known for her relationship with Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, carved out her own success as a singer and model. Buell recounted her journey to Rolling Stone, revealing how her friendship with Patti Smith influenced her. "I wrote poems and bonded instantly with Patti Smith, who dated Todd Rundgren. We'd share poems and play pretend rock stars to raw power in her loft. She was super smart. She could take one hit of pot and speak like heaven, drenched in chocolate. She was my first strong female influence." Despite her accomplishments, Buell has faced challenges with the groupie label throughout her career. "I've battled labels and shaming for a long time. When you transition from successful model to playboy and assert you're more a singer, people roll their eyes." Number 11, the evolution of groupie culture.
Because, first of all, I was still, I was a baby. Come on, and this was Led Zeppelin.
Lori Maddox, a baby groupie of the 60s and 70s, has a unique perspective on the lifestyle. She was just a high school student when she started dating rock stars like Jimmy Page, Mick Jagger, and David Bowie. Yes, you read that right. She lost her V** virginity to David Bowie at just 14. But Lori doesn't see her experiences as problematic. Instead, she thinks they're similar to today's celebrity culture. Back then, she felt like she was living in a world of endless possibilities, without the fear of social media or public scrutiny. Fast forward to today, and Lori believes that the Kylie and Kendall Jenners, Gigi Hadids, and other young celebrities are the modern-day groupies. The only difference is that social media has given them a platform to become famous and rich. It's a new era, but the desire for fame and excitement remains the same. As Lori puts it, it has evolved into something else. Number 10. More than just a pretty face. Imagine being the inspiration behind some of rock and roll's most iconic songs. That's exactly what some groupies did. They were muses, friends, and confidants to the world's most famous musicians. Chris O'Dell, for instance, was the subject of multiple songs, and Pamela Des Barres, a self-proclaimed groupie, was the go-to girl for Keith Moon whenever he came to LA. But it wasn't just about the parties and the glamour. Des Barres was a stabilizing force in Moon's life, calming his fears and soothing his soul. In an interview, Des Barres set the record straight about what it means to be a groupie. It's not just about S*X or being a fan. We were music lovers who wanted to be near the band to uplift and enhance them. We were friends, helpers, assistants, guides, and sometimes, yes, sexual partners. But that's not all we were. We were muses, inspiring some of the greatest music of all time. So the next time you hear the word groupie, remember, it's not just about the stereotypes, it's about the women who played a vital role in shaping rock history, one song at a time. Number 9, drug and alcohol abuse.
Are strong enough to take a...
Being part of the wildest party scene in history, surrounded by rock legends like the Rolling Stones, for Chris O'Dell, it was a dream come true, but it soon turned into a nightmare. Chris's ability to keep up with the guys when it came to drugs impressed even Keith Richards. But as she delved deeper into the world of cocaine, Quaaludes, and Seconal, she lost control. She was on a mission to find the perfect high, but it was a never-ending cycle of ups and downs. I do a line of coke to get high, then take a Quaalude to calm down, and later drink to take the edge off. Chris revealed to ABC News, I was always chasing that perfect balance, but I never found it. The scariest part? Substance abuse was so normal in the music scene that people thought it was just part of the party. We thought that's what getting high was all about, Chris said, and when people died, we just thought they didn't know how to stop. Chris hit rock bottom after touring with the Stones, but her story is a warning to anyone who's ever been tempted by the glamour of the rock and roll lifestyle. The party may seem endless, but the consequences can be deadly. Number 8. The blurred line between employee and groupie.
If you can't read from the same page, maybe I'm going deaf, maybe...
Chris O'Dell, often labeled a groupie, never saw herself that way. She viewed herself as an essential part of the music industry. In 1968, she moved from Los Angeles to London after being invited by the Beatles' press agent, Derek Taylor, to work at Apple headquarters. She recounted to ABC News in 2009, I needed to do something different and I loved music. By accident, I ended up working at a record company and met Derek Taylor, who was the Beatles' press agent. He invited me to London. Paul came in and I could hear his voice through a wall. I walked out and there were John and Yoko. It was amazing seeing them as real people. O'Dell quickly rose from cutting out newspaper clippings to becoming George Harrison's personal assistant. She evolved into a confidant, manager, and sometimes A**jewel partner to rock legends. While she doesn't consider herself a groupie, she respects those who do. She explained to ABC News, I don't want to use groupie in a derogatory way because those girls were strong fans, which I was too. But I also worked hard and became a friend. Number 7, consensual relationships.
If I can, oh, I'm just a man, that's the way I was made.
When discussing the #MeToo and Time's Up movements, Pamela Des Barres highlighted the differences between Hollywood's power imbalances and the music scene of her time. Speaking to WWD, she said, You could wonder about many people, but the women involved in rock and roll, the groupies, put themselves there. They wanted to be with these guys. Unlike directors or producers, these musicians didn't force anything. The girls wanted to meet them, be backstage, and be with them. They didn't have to fight anyone off. It was quite the opposite. Yes, there were younger girls involved long ago, but in that part of society, it was seen as permissible. These girls were happy about the fun they had. It's very memorable and wild. Hanging out with these people, especially at a high level like I did, on stage with the band, traveling with them, is unforgettable. Dave Bars emphasized that the relationships were consensual and that many women cherished those wild and extreme experiences. Number 6, front row seats.
Just the filming and everything was just so exquisite, and the music was great. And
as both a personal assistant and a close friend to rock legends like the Beatles, Chris O'Dell witnessed some of rock history's most significant moments. One such moment was when George Harrison confessed to Ringo Starr that he was in love with Ringo's wife. O'Dell recalls, when George finally told Ringo that he was in love with Maureen, Ringo's response was, "Well, better you than someone else." It was like, okay, at least it's not somebody that we don't know. It's all in the family. And that's kind of how it was at that point. O'Dell also had a front row seat to the Beatles' last performance on the rooftop of Apple Records, sitting next to Yoko Ono and Maureen Starkey. Describing the legendary event, she said, "It was freezing cold. That's what I remember most. It was so cold up there, but it was also incredibly exciting. The idea was for everyone in the West End of London to hear the music, but the amps weren't that big, so the people on Savile Row could hear it, and it was fun watching them look up, trying to figure out what was going on." Through moments like these, O'Dell experienced the highs and lows of rock and roll history firsthand. Number 5, love, heartbreak, and rock and roll.
You act like a groupie, baby, I can't fuck with you.
Imagine being 15 and falling deeply in love with a rock legend like Jimmy Page. That's what happened to Lori Maddox, who had a serious relationship with the Led Zeppelin founder. Jimmy was so smitten that he even asked Lori's mom for permission to date her. But their love story took a dramatic turn when Lori caught Jimmy cheating on her with Bebe Buell. "I walked into his suite and there they were, in bed together," Lori recalled. "I felt like my whole world was shattered. I couldn't trust him again." Lori's heart was broken, but she still looks back on her time with Jimmy as one of the greatest loves of her life. It's a reminder that even in the wild world of rock and roll, there's room for real emotions and heartbreak. Number 4, Groupie got to rescue a rock star.
Your name into this song.
In the midst of a wild night, Bebe Buell received a desperate 3 a.m. call from a rock legend, begging for her help. Steven Tyler was stuck in a hotel room, surrounded by towering men and too many drugs, and couldn't walk. Bebe, already friends with Steven, rushed to the rescue. She had just taken a fireman training class, and it came in handy. She threw Steven over her shoulder and carried him out of the hotel room, dodging the 7-foot-tall men. Back at her friend Liz's apartment, they tossed Steven into the bathtub to sober up. As Bebe jokes, that night might have been the conception of her daughter, Liv Tyler. It's a wild story that shows even rock stars need a little help sometimes, and Bebe Buell was the hero of the night. Number 3, it wasn't always a party.
Lost memory you can't recall.
Being around famous rock stars wasn't always fun and games. Chris O'Dell, who worked as a personal assistant and tour manager, saw firsthand how tough things could get. Many musicians she knew were often unkind to each other and the people backstage. Eric Clapton, for instance, was difficult to be around when sober. O'Dell described him as very lonely and very empty. She also had a unique perspective on the Beatles. I think there was a nasty side to all 4 of them. Some of it was that Liverpool way, that sarcasm, and part of it was that they discovered they could say anything they damn well wanted and get away with it. People didn't know how to respond. Despite the glamour and excitement, O'Dell's experiences reveal a darker, more challenging side of life with rock legends. Number 2, expectation around groupies. Whether employed or just fans, groupies were often expected to fulfill the band's needs. Chris O'Dell, who worked with the Rolling Stones, remarked that the job might as well have included a clause like, "Sleep with Mick whenever he asks." However, O'Dell clarified that her relationship with Jagger wasn't strictly on his orders, even though she considered it part of the job. It just seemed natural, to be honest. We were very close. We spent every day together, at his house, in studios, at parties. I was the person he turned to. Her experience sheds light on the blurred lines between personal and professional roles in the rock and roll world. Groupies like O'Dell often found themselves navigating complex relationships with the stars they admired, sometimes blurring the boundaries between work and personal life. Number 1, different odd jobs.
I ain't gonna work for Maggie's brother no more.
With the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan, she was also a crucial part of the tour crew. This meant she handled everything from sewing buttons on Bob Dylan's shirts to orchestrating helicopter rides to deliver forgotten harmonicas. O'Dell recalled, "When Bob Dylan forgot his harmonicas, we had to quickly improvise. George called from the Isle of Wight and suggested, just take a helicopter down. So from planning a regular train trip, we ended up flying in a helicopter with Bob Dylan's harmonicas to a farmhouse. We landed in the backyard, and as we descended, there was Bob sticking his head out the bedroom window upstairs watching us. It was a surreal moment." O'Dell's experiences highlight the diverse and often unexpected tasks groupies performed behind the scenes to ensure everything ran smoothly on tour, blending adventure with responsibility in the world of rock and roll. This brings us to the end of our video. Hope you like our video. We'd really appreciate your support. If you could lend us a hand by following us, clicking on the bell icon for notifications, and leaving your valuable comments, it would mean a lot to us. Sending you warm regards from our corner of the world. Take care and goodbye for now.